And we're back. Another outstanding episode of the Square Table Degenerates. Today we are joined by Mr. Chip Zanough from the band Enough's Enough. How are you today, sir?
It's a beautiful day here in Chicago, but tomorrow I'll be in lovely San Francisco playing Bottom of the Hill.
Oh, okay, San Francisco. Man, I haven't been to Frisco. They don't like calling it when you call Frisco. They hate that. So I do that because you know how I like trolling people. But like, yeah, San Francisco is it's a wild town, man. I haven't been out there in like 20 years. What?
Yeah, a lot of history out there. You know, it started a long time ago with the Grateful Dead. But you got Steve Miller out there, Journey, some of the greatest bands you could imagine, Jefferson Airplane. A lot of older stuff that's come from that area, the Bay City, where they're really embrace rock and roll and heavy metal. And you get a chance to go to Haight-Ashbury, you might want to check that out. Very hippie oriented, a lot of shops, boutique shops, quite a few places to go eat, great restaurants. The hardest part about San Francisco is getting around if you're walking because everything is uphill.
Straight uphill. I've never seen a hillier city in San Francisco. My gosh, like it's literally like.
No, keep you in good shape out there. That's for sure.
That's why everybody's exactly. You got to be in shape to be in San Francisco. All right, we got our first question here. Beatles or Queen?
Good question. I got to be honest with you. I love them both beyond belief. The Beatles started it all off, but I love the aggressiveness of Queen. Very diversified. Both bands are just fabulous. I guess the Beatles would be first because they were the purveyors, and they got a wonderful catalog. And our last record was called Hard Rock Night. And on the Hard Rock Night record, we played nothing but Beatles songs from 1967 through 1970. Just a fabulous time when the Beatles were poor experimental. They're really experimenting on all kinds of different things back then. And I think that at that time, the Beatles were already big. They were already successful. They were just enjoying the songwriting prowess of what they carried between all four band members. Paul, George, John, and Ringo all had their own timbre as songwriters, and that's really special. When it comes to Queen, though, Roger Taylor, John Deacon, Brian May, Freddie Mercury, I'll tell you, in modern day era, that music still stands the test of time to this day. Both bands are absolutely fabulous. My two favorite, that's for sure.
Heck yeah. All right, so my internet sleuthing found that you were born in Chicago and you grew up there. Is that correct?
You can say that. I don't know where I was born. Yes, I think I was born in Chicago. That's correct. I've been in Chicago for a long time, but I've lived at different places. I spent a quality time in Los Angeles. I used to live with Steven Adler from Guns N' Roses out in Studio City. But for the most part, I would call Chicago my home. But I spent a lot of time on the West Coast. I used to live with my aunt when I had a band in the early days. I've had good memories out there. I love the weather as well.
All right, we got a question from BC. He says, what was your first bass guitar you owned and which do you prefer today?
I was an 8-string Hamer that I had, or Hagstrom, I should say. 8-string Hagstrom was the first bass I actually got. And my dad took me to a place. It was like a show that would have all kinds of stuff for sale. I can't think of what you would call it, but they'd had it at the amphitheater downtown Chicago. I think it was on 43rd Street, actually. And people would come in there and they'd buy all kinds of different stuff that they would need for the house, televisions and refrigerators. And the guy had an old bass there, a Wurlitzer 4-string bass. That might have been the first bass. The second bass was the 8-string Hagstrom, all white, beautiful. Man, I wish I had that bass now. I remember when I first got the bass, the Wurlitzer, I had to put a nickel for the tuning peg because it was broke off. But hey, it worked. It helped me learn and listen to a lot of different music back then. And that's what I tell all my musician friends that are coming up right now is listen to all kinds of different styles of music and find out what you really love, and then go forward with that kind of style and try to pick your own little your own timbre when you're playing bass guitar. Listen to all different players, and you pick and choose and nick whatever you can get out there, just like all the great bands have done in the past.
Heck yeah, man. Now, when you were a kid, did you grow up in Chicago as a kid? Did your parents move around? What was that about?
Yeah, my old man was in the military, a military brat over in Germany. Spent time in different places around the country. Actually hung out with Elvis Presley, he told me, which is cool, and Jimi Hendrix. He served in the military. He was a track star out there, actually. Also a construction engineer. Came back to Chicago. That's where I was brought up. Went to Brother Rice High School. And just after I graduated, I sashed. I told my parents, enough's enough. It's time to move. Ended up taking the family car that we had, old 1967 Chevy, and drove to Los Angeles, moved in with my aunt, and started playing music every day, full time with my band. The band was called Degeneration, the original Degeneration, by the way, not the one from New York. And, those guys are good too. And then our first shows were out in Las Vegas. We were opened up for the Grateful Dead and Boss Gags, and it was a really good learning experience. And I listened to all that punk stuff back then, Sex Pistols, the Dickies, and Clash, and found what I like to do musically. It was a potpourri of different stuff. I was listening to Beatles and Queen back then as well, just like those bands. I just don't want to admit it. And that band ended up breaking up after a couple of years out in California. Norco, California is where we were playing at my aunt's house. And ended up packing up, moving back here to Chicago, and I put together a couple different projects, and until I was able to put enough stuff together, found the right musicians, went in the studio, started recording a bunch of songs, and from there, playing some shows whenever we could, weekend warrior mostly, and found myself a nice little niche and a lot of good musicians. We networked with everybody until we got a couple of little breaks.
Nice. Now we got a question from. Hold on, hold on. This one first. It says, besides your hometown, where's your favorite place to play?
That's a good question because I like playing everywhere around the country. I never really picked anywhere that was my favorite. I guess if I had no choice, I had to pick one place. Japan. We've always had good success out there. The fans are wonderful. I love their culture. It's just a lovely place to go play shows, and you go see any band out there. You're going to have a good time because there's.
Now, how tall are you?
I'm 6'2".
Okay, so you're about my height.
So
when you're going for Japan, do they call you like Chipzilla? Do you feel huge over there? What's up with that?
I'm a little bit big, I would say, for Japan, a little tall. But they appreciate that. They like tall people out there, and I like small people. So at the end of the day, it's the common denominator is we all love music. They embrace American bands. I'm grateful that they know who Enough's Enough is. Love playing there. Haven't been there in 10 years. Hopefully next year we'll go back over there and start playing some of the songs that we've released in the last 10 years, which is quite a few records. So no, it's really a wonderful place to go and meet new people. Last time I was there, I was hanging out with Julian Lennon. It was great. We were at a place, it's like a little club where girls would go dancing, and we all walked into the venue and we sat down. It's called the Lexington Queen, and all the musicians were. I looked over and there was the guys from No Doubt hanging out, and then Julian Lennon came right in. Him and his chick sat right next to me. They gave us free cocktails, some food. It was really nice. There's about 150 people, maybe 200 people in the place, and most of them were girls. They were all models from around the country who were on vacation or actually working for their modeling agencies, and had a wonderful time. And Robbie Blunt was there too, from Robert Plant's band. And we ended up at the end of the night going to a Mexican restaurant about 3, 4 in the morning. They were just getting ready to close up, but because I'm with Julian Lennon, they let us in, of course. And then we looked around. We were hanging out having just chips and salsa. The kitchen was closed. And I walked through the venue, and in the back room, I found an upright bass guitar and a tambourine and an acoustic. And we pulled all the stuff out and came out, and Julian was freaked. He's like, "What did you guys find the equipment?" We said, "We're just hunting through the club, and we evidently some other musicians left their stuff in here. Let's play some songs." So we ended up playing a bunch of Beatles songs for him, and he was almost crying. He was that happy. He says, I love my father so much, and I really never learned any of his songs. You guys play them so nice. And we said, "Oh, thanks. You know, this is we really appreciate what your old man the the what he's left us as a musician with all these fantastic songs that are timeless. How about you playing one of your songs for us?" And him and Robbie Blunt got up on the stage there, and they played "Saltwater." It was great. I'll never forget it. And just got tanky food. They had some booze in the restaurant, so they served us a few drinks. I'm not a big drinker, but I remember leaving the venue, and we wrote on the cardboard. It was like a blackboard that was in front of the venue, and we wrote Julian. Enough's enough. Special guest Julian Lennon on the front of it. And then we got inside the car. We found a cab because there was no um, Lyft back then or
Uber
any
or
of those
something, yeah.
companies out there, Uber. And we jumped in a cab and it took me home. I remember I fell asleep. I was told I fell asleep on the driver's arm. Got us back to our hotel where we were staying, which is in Tokyo, and just had a great night. And it was just wonderful hanging out with Julia Lennon and talking shop.
Now, when you're over in Japan, you do a show for these Japanese audiences. Do they introduce you in English? Is everything in English? Is there some parts in Japanese? What's up with that?
Yeah, well, they announced the name of the band in English, of course, because that's how we're known. But then when you play the shows out there, after a 2.5 hour set, and I'm telling you, it's very challenging over in Japan. They really want everything. They want to get all the music out of you. So it's a long set, probably about last time we played there, I think it was almost 30 songs in the set, which is quite interesting to be able to play that much material. Even to go see the Stones nowadays or McCartney or those bands, they play 20 something songs in a set. It's very rare to see a band playing a 30-song set nowadays. Foo Fighters play quite a bit too. They play for a good 2.5, 3 hours. But after we're done playing, they have a big tray of sushi for you, tons of food, and then they tell you, okay, in a half an hour you're going to go back on. We want you to give the fans another 45 minutes acoustically. That's very challenging. So when you play those shows out there, they start at 7 o'clock at night in Japan, and you probably play to 10 o'clock, and then maybe 10:30, and then they pack up, and then the record company usually takes you out to a nice dinner at a Japanese restaurant. Really lovely people, and then you're back at the hotel by 1 o'clock in the morning, and the next morning, 7 o'clock, the vehicles are out in front waiting for you to take you to the next show. They don't play games out there. It's really a lot of work. It's very tedious, but what a beautiful country. And walking down the streets out there, it's so congested. There's so many people on the roadways. Everybody's walking around, going to work, going to restaurants. It's very challenging. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I love their country. I love the people. And I hope one day I get a chance to visit it again. I've been there about 6 times. It's time for number 7.
Heck yeah, my kids want to go to Japan. I think it'll be in the cards in a couple of years. It's an expensive trip, man. Japan's several thousand for the flight and everything. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's a nice little flight there. It's about 10 hours from Chicago to Japan to Tokyo. And then the promoter picks you up at the airport, takes you to your hotel, and then the next day you're working, and it's every day, and it's tons of press out there. They have all these junkets out there where the journalists show up there, and there's 5, 6, 7 journalists in one room, and they just ask you questions, and you're talking for hours and hours. But it's your only chance to get some promotion out there because it's wash, rinse, repeat. Once you're gone, another band comes in, they got to do the same thing. So you take advantage of your time out there and try to be as nice and courteous as possible, and they'll get you through it. Really, like I said, a lovely country, and I like the challenge of being able to go over there, play 4 or 5 shows, and then back to the next place.
Heck yeah. All right, Doof asks, being in the music scene in the 80s and 90s, who was the biggest band or act you played with?
There's quite a few big bands that Enough Stuff has played with. I'll tell you that we've had a pretty illustrious career up to this point. But some of my favorite bands I've played with, I must say, right off the top of my head, Cheap Trick. I love those cats. Big fan. Obviously, listen to our music, and there's a lot of similarities there. They're good friends of mine. Would love sharing the stage with them. Another one would be Def Leppard, who's a wonderful band. Poison, always fun to tour with those cats. Quiet Riot, great guys. Um, Warrant, the list goes on and on. If I looked at all the bands I play with, it's hard to remember all the names. If you get Enough Snuff live album, you look at the back of it, and I thanked all the bands for sharing their stage with us. Bad Company. It's just a wonderful potpourri of great bands that we've been lucky enough to share the stage with, and I'm very grateful for those opportunities. And there's a lot more bands. We're getting ready to go out on a tour next year, and it'll be with Styx and Tesla, another good band to play with live. Never played open for Styx before. I know we're playing Rock Island Fest in Key West in January, and Styx is headlining that. So listen, the list goes on and on of all the bands. Every year we chalk up another gig with one of our great heroes out there that are playing shows, and these guys, they respect what we've done, and we certainly respect what they've done.
Good deal, man. All right, Captain wants to know the gratuitous details of your best groupie story. You got any good ones?
Not really. I never meet any groupies. They all tell me they're not groupies when I meet them. I like to call them Band-Aids. And just like the guys out there, guys are groupies just like girls would be groupies if you're going to call them a groupie. Where I'm a groupie, as far as I'm concerned, groupies are people that love the music and love the bands. And the extracurricular activities that come along with that connotation, I'm not so sure in this politically incorrect climate that's good to talk about. But I will tell you, I love the fans, and I love all the Band-Aids that are out there, and we embrace them every single night. And, the game has changed since the old days of being promiscuous. We go out there, we play live shows, we hang out with the people, we do meet and greets, or we like to call them sound check experiences. But as far as the questionable behavior, listen, I've been with all the bands. We've all been guilty as charged. But I like to be good and be respectful at the end of the day, and that's the most important thing. That's the mark I'm going to leave at the end of the day. Always nice to the fans, no matter what.
Heck yeah, brother. Heck yeah, like you're doing this show. Appreciate that. All right, JV says, in 2014, when you took over the lead vocal role, did you do it mainly because you got tired of dealing with lead singers' egos, or mainly because you wanted to start doing lead?
Oh, no. Donnie, my brother, sashayed in 2013. He said that he was disillusioned with the business, had some health issues he was dealing with. And he says, if you're going to go out and continue Enough's Enough, you should sing the songs. At least people will know it's Enough's Enough. So I made another record with our label at the time, Frontiers, and a label out of Italy. And the record did very well. It was very well received. And right after that, a couple of years later, we got called by Live Nation to go out on a tour. And that tour was real successful. And we went out with Ace Frehley, as a matter of fact. So, Ace could have took anybody out on tour. He picked Enough's Enough. Went out, did 20-something shows with him, and it did really well. And then after that, seen Paul Stanley backstage at the Whiskey A Go-Go, and he says, hey, how would you guys like to open for Kiss? And I said, I'd love to. So we got called for the Kiss cruise and did 4 shows opening for Kiss, which was great. And then right after that, we got picked for the Live Nation Great White Tour. And that really set the tone for us. We were playing good rooms, not stadiums or anything, although we still do arenas as a support band. But we found ourselves in a good position where we were playing nice theaters. They were all jam-packed, sold out. The fans seen what the band can do live, and it gave me confidence as a singer to be able to continue to take this journey with my band. And I got a strong band. I got Tony Fennell, from the ex-lead singer from Ultravox, playing guitar and singing with me. And my other guitar player is Tori Stockregan, wonderful player, used to be in a band called Black Mollies, and Daniel Benjamin Hill here in Chicago. So it's a 4-piece band, very solid and strong. We show up every single night. We bring the show, bro. And I guess I'm grateful to have the opportunity to still be out there playing shows.
Nice. All right, Captain wants to know, what current band do you rate most?
Good question, Captain. I really like the Rival Sons. I think that's a strong band. The Struts, I think they're fantastic. That's the new queen as far as I'm concerned. Luke, great front man. Hey, Greta Van Fleet, had them on the show quite a few times. I think it's a real formidable band. 4 young guys full of piss and vinegar. sort of have a Led Zeppelin vibe. Singer's got high pipes. They're terrific. Dirty Honey, another band. They're getting a lot of push out there. There's so many new bands out there that deserve recognition. I'm just grateful to be a part of it, and I'm glad to hear that these bands are carrying a flag for what we've been a part of for the last almost 40 years in this business. So there's so many great bands I could mention, but those are a few of them that come off the top of my head right now.
Nice. JV says, I talked to Robbie Blunt still to this day. Amazing guitarist and great guy. Good deal. Let's see what else we got. Andrew writes, yo, Chip, I met you at Rich's Pawn Shop in Dayton a few years back. Nice. He said, he actually, when I was talking about this on Facebook, he actually shared a picture of him and his buddy. That's why I asked how tall you were, because Drew's buddy, he was really short compared to you. I was like, man, is this guy like 6'7"? Drew's buddy was just a little short.
Well, I probably had boots on at the time, so it makes me like 6'4". Okay, so it appears I'm a little taller than I am. But I mean, listen, most of the musicians I grew up to love, they're all real short guys, and those are my favorite cats. They look great in pictures. They look fantastic in videos. I'm an ex-athlete. I used to play sports, so I kind of tall and lengthy. But there's a few of us out there that are still doing it that look good on stage. They look awful big. But for the most part, most of the great musicians out there that I grew up to love, they're all short.
Nice. All right. BC says, if it wasn't for music, what, if any, profession would you choose to do?
That's a good question. And maybe I would have stayed in sports, perhaps. Baseball coach, hockey, football. I've excelled in all sports as a young man. But really don't know. Nowadays, I guess if I had to go and do something right now, maybe I'll become a manager and help out the new generation and show them the little tricks that I've learned through the great managers that I've had in my life. We started off with Doc McGee and Bob Brigham working with Enough's Enough. And then when they left, Herbie Herbert took over. Herbie used to manage Journey, Roxette, Mr. Big, Steve Miller, Europe. This guy had so many great bands. They were all multimillionaire bands that just sold lots of records. Nice. And then for a year, we had Bill Aucoin, Kiss's old manager, managing the band. We were on the Poison Glam Slam Metal Jam tour with Quiet Riot and Warrant. And those are three formidable guys right there to help steer the band in the direction that we're in right now, which is, putting out great music, showing up at the gigs, staying focused, and trying to stay out of trouble. It's a lot different. In the old days, being an ounce of cocaine, bottles of Jack Daniel and Crown Royal, and a plethora of pharmacy pills. Nowadays, it's clean. It's milk and cookies. Famous Amos cookies, 2% milk. It's fruit roll-ups. The game has changed a lot. Not that we don't party anymore, but it's certainly not the way it was in the old days.
Well, we're also
and I'm grateful for that.
Right, we're also in our 40s and 50s. You just can't party like we did. You drink now, it goes out, and you 4 days to recover. We got our first super chat for a gummy. There you go, Drew.
Yeah, and I'm playing. Enough's Enough is on tour. We're playing 5, 6, sometimes 7 days a week, and we're traveling around in Oscar Mayer Wiener wagon or in a minivan. So it's a lot more challenging than it was before. But man, my guys are up for it. These guys, they show up every single night and they bring the show. And you can't do that when you're half in the bag. It's real important to show a little bit of focus, and to quote my grandfather, a little discipline never hurt anybody.
Heck no. All right, Captain wants to know, are you touring Europe at any point? If so, are you doing Belfast?
Yeah, I start the next tour for Enough's Enough. We do Rocklahoma in a couple of days, and that's in Pryor, Oklahoma, with 40 or 50 bands. It's a big show for us. Doug Burgess, a big promoter out there, put us in there. Wonderful guy. I can't wait to see him. Talk about partying. I got to be careful around that cat. He loves trim and he loves burn the candle at both ends. We'll hang out there for a day, and then right out to the West Coast. And I'm playing with John Five and Lita Ford at Rainbow 50th anniversary bash. And then from there we jump right on the bus and we go to New Jersey. We're out with the Dead Daisies, new band, all-star band, featuring Glenn Hughes from Deep Purple. And we'll be out with those cats for 2 or 3 weeks. I think it's a wonderful run we have. Starts on the East Coast, ends on the West Coast. And we'll do that whole Dead Daisies tour until the end of September. And then we go on the Glam Slam Metal Jam tour with Pretty Boy Floyd and the Midnight Devils. They have a new record out on Pavement right now. It's really good, too. Coincidentally, I produced that record. And we'll go out with them all through October. And starting in November, we'll be in Europe. And it's Italy, Spain, Belgium, all through the UK. It's a long run. It's a whole month I'll be out there. And I think we end everything in somewhere in Dominican Republic, I think, in early December.
Okay,
And
nice.
and then we'll take a little bit of a break. So for the next, you got me right now at a good time because besides doing my radio station, I'm on the Monsters of Rock on the Dash Radio Network 7 days a week. I'm on tour all the way until the end of the year.
Hell yeah, man. That's a nice schedule. Love it. JB wants to know, is there any song you are tired of playing?
Nope. Not one. Set list is pretty significant for us. We play these shows. The fans want to hear a new thing. They want to hear Fly Michelle. They want to hear Baby Loves You. They want to hear the singles. But I've been mixing it in a little bit. It's been a real potpourri of material from all the records. I just threw in a Love Train off Animals to Human Intelligence. That's in the set. I'm also playing stuff off the latest record, which is called Hard Rock Night. It's all Beatles songs. So I got Eleanor Rigby in the set, Magical Mystery Tour,
Nice.
Live and Let Die. Sometimes I throw Revolution in there as well. So, on these, when as a support band right now, if we're headline, we'll play for an hour and a half, 2 hours, but supporting, you only get so much time, 45 minutes to an hour. So I try to cram as many songs as possible in the set.
Heck yeah. All right, Doof wants to know.
No guitar solos, no long guitar solos, no long drum solos, just song after song after song. That's what the people want to hear.
Heck yeah, man. All right, Doof wants to know, what artist, dead or alive, would you like to play with?
Dead or alive? I don't understand.
Like, if there was any person you could play with who was dead or alive that you haven't played with, who would you like?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
No problem.
I guess Freddie Mercury would be a great one. I love Queen so much. John Lennon, of course, he's right in there. Wonderful artist. T-Rex, Mark Bolan, love him. I just got off the phone with Roland Bolan, his son. He's going to come up and see us on September 4th at the Rainbow in Los Angeles. Maybe I'll get him to come up and do 21st Century Boy. There's just so many great musicians, though I can go through the whole gamut of stuff. Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy, great one to plug in and play with. I always loved his pipes. Off the top of my head, there's so many good ones, but those are a couple right there that are outstanding and left an indelible mark in my musical vocabulary.
Heck yeah, brother. Heck yeah, man. All right, what's the biggest change you've noticed touring through the different decades? Laz wants to know.
Well, we got social media right now, so Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. With all that stuff, at touch of a button, you can let millions of people know what you're doing. Whether they're going to respond or not, it remains to be seen. I see some of these artists out there, and they have 30, 40 million people follow them, and I see other great ones, and they have 10,000. So that's a little strange right there. And the whole musical climate has changed, of course, with social media and with the advent of Spotify, where people don't have to really pay for the music. They pretty much get it for free, and bands are paid pennies for live streams. But I'm grateful that those different social media outlets are open, because I get a chance for a new audience that would maybe not necessarily listen to your band. So it is a lot different. I think we're going back to the old days, though, for all the bands, whether it's a stadium tour with Motley Crue, Def Leppard, Poison, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, Classless Act, or Rod Stewart and Cheap Trick. You got to go out there and play shows. That's what it's about. People take it to the streets and meet the people. And at the end of the day, that's the way they used to do it in the old days. And I think it's coming back to that right now. You have to play live shows. You can't just make records and just put them out there and sit back and wait. You got to take the bull by the horns. And that's what Enough's Enough does. We play over 100 shows a year, and just try to stay as busy as possible and reacquaint yourself with the new audience and the ones that used to listen to you a long time ago. Remember, a lot of these moms and dads that were kids when they seen Enough Snuff are coming out with their kids now to see the shows. So there's lots of opportunity for all the bands out there. Although we're in a time right now where there's too much product, not enough demand in some ways. If you're a band that's busy working and can stay healthy, go play shows. That's what I recommend.
Okay, it was funny you mentioned that Motley Crue Def Leppard concert. I just took my daughter to that. And it's funny, so it's like totally pertinent to everything you just mentioned right there, because she's like in the next generation of the music too. Because we were in here, when I was doing the show prep, and I had your album was playing in the background. She's like, I really like that music. He's like, I gotta ask this guy a question. So this is the perfect time to bring this up. All right, it says, what is your favorite shade of lipstick? She wanted to know.
Well, don't wear lipstick anymore, although in those early MTV videos, we certainly did. But if we didn't wear lipstick and makeup and glam up in those early days, we might not be recognized. People would not even know who we are, because MTV was looking for bands that were flamboyant back then, and we were the perfect fodder for them. So no lipstick right now for me. Just keep it pretty much natural, to be honest with you. But I always like bands that are colorful and flamboyant. I always have. I always will.
That's good. That's a great lead in my next question, actually. The first time I remember you guys, I was watching MTV like all kids, teens did back in the late 80s. And I remember the video for the Fly High Michelle, and it was just so colorful and everything. And you're like, I thought, man, these guys really, really wore a lot of makeup. Like, this was really over the top compared to what I was used to. Because usually you see Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue, whatever. They have a little bit here or there, but you guys were like full off, almost drag. Was that just a byproduct of what they wanted you to do for that video, or what was that just the style back then? What was up with that?
Oh, that's the way we dressed. That was our look back then. It was we were always like that. We were stealing stuff out of our sisters and mom's closets, and that's what the band was all about back then. We were super colorful. I think I'm running out of my phone. It looks like right now. I apologize, and I had a great interview with you, man. Thanks a lot for talking to me.
Oh, no problem, brother. No problem. Thanks, Chip. We'll talk to you later, bro. All right, I think Chip is done. Still there, Chip? Oh, we missed all the questions here. If you can still hear us, Chip, what's your all-time favorite band? Well, we'll keep Chip on the screen here for a couple minutes. Might have to pop it. No problem. Thanks for everybody for showing out. Let's see here. I know I missed a super chat. Stand by. Lev says, worst three music? Elvis, Queen, and Beatles. Captain says, what do you think of people at live shows recording on their cameras? I would say that's a pretty awesome thing there. Yeah, Spotify, Dorito. I don't think Spotify is going to last too much longer because artists don't like it, and they don't. I'll just bring myself up. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so thanks, Chip, for joining us. He didn't charge his phone, so it goes to show you out there. When in life, you got to charge your phone. I'll finish up some of the questions. I'll actually drop the link for a little bit. You guys want to come up while we're just yapping here? Feel free, because you know how we do. I got a couple minutes to, well, not really kill. I guess this will actually let me get to the thing on time. Get to the, my buddy said, let me stop never playing live. Blake William is Bear, Freddie Mercury. Let's see. Elodie, I love it. Phone died. Yep, phone died. If anybody wants to come up, yeah, cheers to everybody who, at this point, the interview's over. All right, cool. So that's about it, guys. I'll stick around for a couple more minutes. I think I did all the gummies for the super chats. Friday, we have Marilyn Gigliotta from Clerks coming out, so that should be a banger. It should be a real banger. And then Monday, is it this Monday? Monday, yeah, Monday we got Darren Bruce from the DJ Sessions over on Twitch. He's going to join us. I got a couple other guys I'm working on as well. So, all right, I think that'll just wrap it up. I'm not going to just delay for having it and go from there. So thanks for coming out, guys, and we will see you Friday. Take it easy.